Very important point to consider. What did I say in my previous video on THC? What people believe about something is affecting how they feel about it, whether it's bad or good, and the beliefs are not grounded in reality. You can believe anything. Doesn't mean it's going to be true about the world, but it's subjective, and you will convince it's true. Convince yourself it's true about a certain situation just because of a majority of a subculture say it is so. And we do that a lot, I think, as human beings. We like to, uh, we really want some of these things what we believe about the world to be true. It'd be nice to believe that everybody is altruistic. But they're not. It just doesn't happen. And you see a lot of naive people out there falling prey to people's immoral hidden agendas, right? So, THC. Come across a YouTube channel, Addiction Mindset. And I've been looking at some of the videos. It's pretty cool. But have a listen to this. So I rewind a little bit. This is them talking. The title of the video is Cannabis Induced Psychosis. Yeah, people who've previously commented under my previous video, thank you very much. I used to run a website, we're bringing back the blog of that, and used to have some social pages. This was like the nasty side of COVID, and created Exploratory Minds Project, and this is what it is coming back. I will be changing the template for the video a little bit and getting back into this, and it's like a rebirth, but it's not the same old, same old. Some things that I used to put out, well, new information has come to light on some of those things, so I redo some of those, script them out, and add in the new information. Some things I may have got a little bit wrong as well. So evolution, correcting myself as I go along. And you see people out there on YouTube, unfortunately, when it's streamed to another, people not really learning too much about how to progress, and they're repeating the same old stuff as it was, not evolving. And then you see some great work as well. Some great work is done by this YouTube channel. And if I can get my settings right, I'll mute myself. Then I'll play the audio a bit from this interview that Dr. Frank, qualifications DC and CARC, whatever that is, I'm not sure what that stands for, and Dr. Doug Kindred. I haven't looked too deep into their prowess, their abilities, but it's an interesting interview. So let me readjust, mute first, desktop audio, and mute.
And it said the way it worded it was so odd. It was like the only drug found was cannabis, and they just kind of brushed right over it. And this person had shot
examples.
No, and then I want to ask you. There was a
young man in the Tampa area.
Yours.
Yeah. Young man in the Tampa area. It's been over a year ago. Was smoking marijuana on his 21st birthday all morning long and all afternoon, and then unfortunately stabbed his girlfriend to death and threw their infant into the pond, and it was eaten by an alligator. I must have read 10 articles about that murder.
Okay, so you heard this murder, and then listen to the take on what was in his blood. And again, underlining what people think within the social constructs of how people believe what is true about certain things in the blood, regardless of the legitimate scientific progress, showing you proof of what is bad versus what is okay, what is inert, what is doing what with the brain, what are the causes of psychosis. THC psychosis is a real thing. The paranoia getting so bad. There's this 21-year-old smoking. At 21, you got all life ahead of you. It's just, and individual who commented previously under my video. Let me see. I don't want to misquote you, so let's have a look. Internet's being a little bit slow. We'll get there. Hold on. More on THC receptor issues in the brain was my video.
Tag
And thank you so much, everybody. It has 394 views. Pretty cool. And somebody said, and the way you're typing this out, you're definitely from the UK. I'll tell you this much, mate. I'm 18 years old. 18 years old. And he was smoked weed since 13 years old. I worry in today's society, I see it degrading a lot in the UK. And there's some degradation of parenting in elsewhere. But then I don't necessarily know what your situation is necessarily, but I would think, 13 years old, smoking weed, what guidance did your parents give you? And this is, again, the reason why we have a lot of security around, like age gates, porn websites. So, again, another addiction problem, but adults have to pay the penalty for useless parents not guiding, not watching what the teenagers to underage are doing, what content they're ingesting. Seriously, psychologically, there's a lot going on there that is a problem. When I was at school, before the age of the internet, before the internet boom, some kids who were coming up close to leaving school, they got hold of porn magazines. Don't know how, but they got hold of them. It's just, yeah. Soft porn. You could probably call it soft porn. But I tell you, mate, I'm 18. I've smoked weed since I was 13 years old smoker. And the longest I've ever had a break is 3.5 weeks. You've taught me more in this video than any other creator could have. Really made me consider my ways. Please do consider your ways. You're 18 and you're here. You just hear that interview about a 21-year-old who's been smoking marijuana all day long. The thing about the black market is you don't know what's in it. You're buying it and so on. And the problem with addiction is if you're thinking about stopping the weed, you're going to do it more. That's not to take the wind out of yourself and tell you there's no hope, because there is. The only way to stop a habit is replace it with something else. Hopefully, a habit that's healthier than the one you've already got. We are habitual species. We like the routine, and we love to feel secure within programs, schemas. Like if I was dressed for work, my brain's already set the schema, do a video. You got ready for work, do a quick video, and perhaps like I do sometimes. But if I'm dressed for work, it means I'm going up the road a little bit, very short walk to work. I walk in, I go out the back up the back stairs, get my phone out to log in digitally. I log in, come back downstairs, ask anybody who's in charge what needs to be done today, or unless I know firsthand already. That's all expected. That's all a schema or a program. People driving to work, it's different for me because I walk. They mention perhaps the car feels like it just knows its own way. You don't have to focus too much. And the program's running, but we're all running programs that are good, bad, some are inert. They make no difference either way. Some are very neutral, but we all run programs. And the only way you could step outside of the program is to step outside of the social construct that calls the program to start with. There's a huge amount of peer pressure among people who are smoking weed, I think. It is very much its own bubble and subculture. There's a lot of rhetoric that just is not true. Somebody get a bit antsy, is like, chill out, bruv. Yeah, smoke some weed. Yeah, which probably making you worse further down the line. Yeah, 3.5 weeks. If you can do 3.5 weeks, why can't you do another 3.5 weeks? Maybe look at it that way. You do one day, take one day at a time. If you can done one day, wow, you can do another day. You can do one moment, you can do another moment. Break it down into baby steps is my advice. Baby steps. People look at things and, whoa, I can't do all that. And they look at I've mentioned, hey, bigger picture mentality. What I don't mean is look at the whole thing all at once and just do all that big thing. Bigger pictures are there that are made out of, everything big is made out of something small. Metaphorically, literally, and physically on all scales, right? And, you know, you just look at physics itself, and we went down all the way down to atoms. Well, we went to cells, and we thought, wow, cells are so tiny. That's must be the smallest thing that nature does. Then we went down to find out, oh, these cells are made out of molecules. That must be the smallest thing. And then the molecules are made up of linked atoms. And then we look at the linked atoms, and we find that they're subatomic particles. And people have told me they can't imagine infinity. That's because they're thinking about it on the bigger outer. So it's not always necessarily the bigger picture. It's those little tiny things you can do. Yeah, if you trouble imagining infinity, that's because it's limited by your senses on the outward. Go inward. I think it's an important thing, metaphorically. Go inward. Analyze yourself. Have some inner awareness. What is going on? What are your thoughts? Are those thoughts a bit off, a bit psychotic, a bit weird? Regardless of whether you're smoking or not. Because we all have them. We all get paranoid here and there. But let unusual thoughts be your cue to critical thinking and reasoning. And then I think you can have some progress. And again, break it down. 3 weeks, 3.5 weeks. It's almost a month. You nearly went 1 whole month without smoking any weed. If you can do that 12 times, you've done it a whole year. If you can do it a whole year, you can do it decades down the line. So, you taught me more in this video than any other creator could have. That means a lot to me. I like to think perhaps it's helping people out there. Because I think really it's difficult to go through all the psychology of it unless I do a separate video. But it almost amounts to bullying of the peer pressure among these social constructs. You see it with alcoholic environments, with people at parties. One of my last straws years ago, where I was working for a technical soldering, my job was technical soldering, among other things, printed circuits and so on. Hardcore spitting sawdust, hard work, really. It's like factory work, production line, boring. So we all worked hard, but we played very hard as well. Although I got a bit sick and tired of it with work stews and any excuse to go out and get hammered. So one Christmas, it wasn't a Christmas party. It was a pub crawl, really. It's just, and one lad working, I used to work with, said, "Come on, we're going to I forget the name of the pub, but we're going over there next. Get the pint, Danny. We're going to this place next." So I went, "Who bought this pint?" "Well, you did." So I went, had a few curse words. Off then. I'll sit here and enjoy the pint in my own time because my hard-earned cash. I work hard enough for you lot as it is, and that's my reward. I want to be able to enjoy it. I'm not in competition with you drunks out there. I am a bit inebriated. I am a bit drunk. But, it doesn't mean I didn't enjoy myself either because I had some good fun with some friends who kind of got me. They understand where I'm coming from. Some others in the factory is like, "Oh, you're always so quiet," and then they wonder why. They thought somebody spiked my drink when works do as well because I was more outgoing. And there was a disco one night. We got up and had a bit of a dance, and it's like, yeah, within certain context, I'm confident. And it's always those who just don't get it. You find the social bubble is very tiny and very subcultured and not the bigger picture. And I've talked to people from all walks of life, and I've had feelings within myself, meeting people that are very different, thinking, "Oh, what we dealing with here?" Then I judge myself, not the person, thinking, "Well, let's find out. Let's talk to them and see how they react. Or if they're a bit too off the beaten track, a bit too weird for me, and talk to somebody else and feel more comfortable with." So, one guy who's plastered in tattoos and big rings in his ears and a ring through his nose in a public bar that I occasionally visit. And you're going out and you're talking to him, very intelligent and big colors, fancy colors in his hair and all that. Rings everywhere. Just when you first see that against the usual normal background, you think, feel a bit anxiety. What are we dealing with? Demeanor, though, is always very friendly. So look at people's demeanor before you judge too much. And they say don't judge a book by its cover, but sometimes, very often, the book does dictate. But there are exceptions. But if you really are learned enough, he's an exception by the cover because of the way the cover is beforehand. Because he's not like, the tattoos aren't like very tribal or anything. Some of them are very colourful. So there's a little cartoon character on one of them as well, and it's all, he's well inked, but you can tell it's not about, "Hey, look at me, I'm hardcore." It's not about that for that individual, and it's not about being threatening. Yeah. Which some people, they think it's not necessarily that they might think they're threatening. It's just like, what are we dealing with? But that's how you alert people outside of their social subculture. You bring in novelty. If you want to wake up your fellow pals who you think are smoking too much weed as well, do a few things that are novel here and there. And maybe introduce ideas of, "No, I don't fancy it. Now I'll do this other thing." A very different novel. You just, I just want to see how it goes because I'm bored with the same old routine. The thing here, watch people. Misery, not saying anyone's miserable who's commented, but misery loves company. And the first sign of that is any individual who you interact with via these common things you do during the interaction. They want you to continue those things that you do, regardless of the interaction. Their priorities and the doing over interaction and friendship. They're prioritizing that. And misery loves the company until it's no longer needed. Those are not true friends, unfortunately. So alcoholics hang around with alcoholics because misery loves the company and likes to use excuses for them. The company, you know, it's very deep seated there. Really made me consider my ways. I don't know. Thanks though, mate. Thanks though, mate. You're a really knowledgeable bloke. Keep it up. I guarantee this person who commented, you're from the UK, and it's sad in the UK where we see younger, and whatever your situation is, it's unfortunate that you have seen perhaps some whatever situation it was that led you to smoking weed at 13 years old. Poverty breeds some of these situations, these subcultures. I find that poverty also breeds crime. Crime is rife around the black market, definitely, and drug pushers. So, again, let's hear that again one more time on the video. 21-year-old did this crime, was smoking weed all day for hours. You're not 21 yet. It doesn't mean that something could go wrong. Hopefully it hasn't. I hope it hasn't. And please reconsider your life choices, your whole life ahead of you. And you might think, oh, a particular age is old, but trust me, there's so much you could fit in. And I find the more I fit into a year, the slower time seems to take. At least that's true for me. Drug uses, narcotics, and all that seem to mess with our sense of time as well, though. So my sense of time might be different to somebody whose brain is THC infused. I'm looking at things that it seems to confuse past, present, and future issues. A sense of time, that's a human sense of time anyway. We put things as past, present, and future. Where it's really like that, who knows how time really works. But again, listen to this just one more time. And I'll let it play a bit forward because we need to underline the importance of the dismissal of THC via the belief systems within the social constructs to make excuses to carry on using it. You wonder who in authority is perhaps a bit reliant on THC as well. And things allowed to go ahead so much, it's going to cause problems at every level. We assume people in authority are guidance. They know what they're doing, right? Well, look at America. Yeah. It can't be true, can it? I mean, the idiocy that's happened in America could happen to any country because human beings in authority are human beings in authority. They're not some kind of perfected being with moral conduct in authority. This is why things go wrong, right? So let me mute myself again. We'll play this again, and I'll put the link to that video below.
A year ago, was smoking marijuana on his 21st birthday all morning long and all afternoon. And then unfortunately stabbed his girlfriend to death and threw their infant into the pond, and it was eaten by an alligator.
So just before we get to the next bit, he was smoking weed all day long, stabbed his girlfriend, who then fell into a large pond, who was then eaten by an alligator. What motivated him? I don't know. There may have been something else that was instigating a bit of anger here and there, but it's absurd, isn't it? It's just absolutely horrendous. And they were smoking weed all day long. The next bit is very important to underline and listen to. This is not to slate anyone who's been smoking weed. This is to raise awareness that THC is such a problem that people pointing out it being a problem are trying to help you. They're on your side, especially if you're still grounded enough to say things like, oh, I don't know, I stopped for 3.5 weeks and it's made me rethink my life ways. Well done, because you're not at the level of where people are pointing out, oh, this could be a bit wrong, and then you respond vitriolic and saying, no, you're the enemy, an imagined enemy, because I've seen plenty of that via people who are addicted to certain things, and people who point out the errors of some other people's ways who are addicted to things, and you point out really simple things, and they claim that you're evil, you're in cahoots with some group or whatever, they're going to be hacked, and it's mind-blowingly absurd what I've seen through the internet from one particular person that comes to mind I've mentioned in a previous video. Yeah, who is an American, and it doesn't really matter where you're from. If you're THC infused too often, too much, all the time, you're going to end up probably with some mental issues. So let me mute again, and we'll continue the video a little bit forward, and just sit and listen to emphasize what I've been trying to say is the downplaying of, there was some drugs in the blood, there was THC, but it's kind of dismissal. You'll see. Let me mute.
I must have read 10 articles about that murder, and only one of them mentioned the marijuana. All the others said mental illness.
Only one article out of 10 mentioned marijuana. And all the others said, oh, he's some kind of mental illness. Yeah, that was caused by an imbalance, a neurochemical imbalance, neural structure changes via smoking too much of this plant substance, too much THC, and probably not enough balancing, perhaps, of the CBD in its most natural forms. Regardless, that really shouldn't have people thinking, oh, maybe I should smoke the better balanced ones then. No, you really should, unless it's there for actual legitimized doctor's opinion of medicinal purposes, and you shouldn't be using it anyway. I think in decades' time, people will be looking back as like, they used to drink things with alcohol in it. Are they crazy? The alcohol is a really hardcore drug. It's not seen as it because social constructs. There we go. We run these programs that have us pigeonholing certain things via a lens, via a framework. But alcohol does a lot of damage. And trust me, I do like a cider now and then. My last time I visited the public bar, it was probably, 4 pints is a little bit too much. 4.5 actually of a particularly strong cider is too much for any one individual my size, I think. And I'm a big lad, but certainly I don't think it's healthy. And I felt the side effects of it because that's how I used to drink years ago. And I don't drink too much these days. And then if you suddenly do, well, you're not desensitized to it so much as. So I walked to the bus stop afterwards, and it was a bit wobbly. Motor issue, yeah, what they call it, motor system, how you move issues, balance issues, a little bit. But I thought, well, give me a day, keep walking, get on the bus and go. And it's because it was drunk too quick as well, within too much of a short space of time. I was ended up in being a bit of a rush, needed to head home. But somebody bought me a pint, and one thing led to another. Anyway, let's move forward a little bit more. Just listen carefully.
Well, okay, maybe it's mental illness and marijuana, but one of the things I want to point out here is that in cases of, if you've got a person with bipolar or with paranoid schizophrenia and they use marijuana, it exacerbates their psychotic symptoms tremendously. I mean,
If you got psychosis, a tendency already, and you're using this, is a double whammy. Exaggerates problems tremendously. Yeah. So that's not good, right?
I'm not talking 10%, I'm talking 10 times. It's just tremendous increase in the intensity of the psychosis. So, people with those conditions should never use. But, I'm seeing a lot of patients that have no prior history of mental illness and it still does it.
So if you were thinking, well, it's those people who got those tendencies to start with, what he just said was he's seen cases of this with people with no history of psychosis to start with, but when they've seen cases of it involving that they found a lot of THC in their blood. Yeah, but they no history of psychosis before, and yet suddenly they end up, not suddenly, but for whatever reason, they've got they're responding to the world in more and more vitriolic ways and aggressive ways, psychotic ways, paranoia, getting tweaking up and up and up. And I say for whatever reason is like what I mean is what are their reasons? Because they will interject, they will fill in the gaps, the void to try and justify themselves. There's going to be a lot of cognitive dissonance around addiction. There always is, because that's part of addiction, right? If you're trying to stop something, that's not necessarily full on addiction, is it? Because if you deny, that's going to drive you to continue, which is addiction, right? Because you can't control, you can't cope with the coming off of something, the side effects of the lack. The longer you come off something, the more time you've got to adjust and reset to draw yourself out of that lull, however you feel about that. That's the same with alcohol addiction, caffeine addiction. Caffeine addiction, when people wake up early in the morning with a migraine and it doesn't go away until you've had a big, strong black coffee or something, well, that's caffeine addiction. But you can reset things, and the neural connectivity will eventually reset over about a maximum of a week. But it feels like in the moment, this is going to take forever. I need that coffee, is what you're telling yourself. And get rid of this headache and all that. But the longer you portray it, but perpetuate it, the longer it stays that way, but it's surprisingly easy to get to break within in terms of relative short um, time spans to break caffeine addiction. But in the moment, it feels like, oh, I never get out of this. But it really takes a few steps quite easily to get out of that. So listen to what he says next, though. Very important.
And I pointed out in that prior video, roughly half of the people with cannabis-induced psychosis are in the high-risk groups. Half of them are just normal people.
The high risk groups, half of them are just normal people. Continues. What he's about to say it's underlining what I've been trying to say about the social constructs, how it's labeled, how it's dismissed, subcultures and rhetoric, propaganda, and so on around this.
So, back to you said you had one, but I want to mention I was talking about the diagnoses and treatment. But go ahead. I'll finish that later.
Continue. I'll bring it up to diagnoses and treatment because there's two things. I want to ask you this. So I work in high schools and I work with a lot of young men and women, right? When it comes to substance use issues, and cannabis is the number one thing right now that I come across. Okay, sure. We might hit some pills and cocaine or alcohol, but it's really cannabis. And some of these kids, not saying kids that I directly work with, but they do become violent. Like they'll have to bring the resource office. I'll just simply say you have to go to your next class. The resource officer has to come into the room and escort them out of the room because they become so violent and agitated at the fact that our session is up or whatever. And the only thing they're on is cannabis. Yeah. There's nothing else going on there. Maybe some nicotine. But here's my thing. I remember reading a toxicology report. Right. I don't remember which or where, of a school shooter. And it said the way it worded it was so odd. It was like the only drug found was cannabis, and they just kind of brushed right over it. And this person had shot his peers, like a crazy act of violence, and they just brushed it off. Now, I thought immediately when I read that, I was like, if it was cocaine or amphetamines or heroin or something, they would have said, toxicology reports showed cocaine and heroin and this, and they would have talked.
Yeah. Toxicology reports. There's THC. That's all right. But there's cocaine, crack, other drugs. Oh, is that then? Again, the science needs to be on the bigger picture. It just needs to be drummed into people. It's legitimately proven scientifically this is doing damage. Not, it's just natural and it gives you a buzz or it chills you out. It's THC and medicinal purposes, blah, blah, blah. All the rhetoric around it goes absolutely nowhere. It doesn't back itself up. It's all excuse driven. Let me mute myself and go a bit further again. I will end the video soon. And I'll link this video to the commentator again. Thank you very much for the comment.
Talked about it, but in this case, it was no. The only drug found was cannabis. This person was just a raging lunatic, and that's all there is to this case. Have you seen any literature about school violence in cannabis?
Yes, I have. It's a big problem actually, and there was, look, what you just said, let me address that first, the dismissive tone, right? I've seen many murder cases where they say, no drugs in their system, just THC.
Right. Key word there. He's seen many murder cases, not just a few murder cases, many murder cases where THC was in the blood of the accused. Let me just tweak that again and play that back to you.
Yes, they studied 14 cases of violence, mostly mass shooters, and that included Nicholas Cruz at Parkland High School. It included Dylan Roof, which I think was the church shooter in South Carolina. It included a whole bunch of these high-profile ones, and then most of the ones that have been since then, I've confirmed that they were also either psychotic or at least paranoid due to cannabis use. So yes, there's a really good paper on that. And one of the things they point out in that paper is they say it's preventable, right? We just got to stop people from using weed.
Totally preventable. Just got to stop people from using weed. I've seen people use weed and they're using alcohol, and they end up being so that you've never seen such a mess, and they end up with no job, nowhere to live, poverty stricken, and you can't think straight. They don't never really know what they're doing with remembering things or taking responsibility for things. They always feel like they're attacked when other people are trying to help them. I've seen that happen. Yeah. Vitriolic arguments over incredibly simple things because they become so damn paranoid. Yeah, weed is known. It's a known thing that is accepted among some of the social circles of the subculture. They say, "Oh, you get paranoid. Maybe it's smoking too much weed," and yet they smoke it anyway. There's that going on. It's just like, "Oh, you're smoking the wrong kind of weed, mate. You're too paranoid." But it's just rhetoric. It's superficial. If somebody more learned on that would be saying you're smoking too much THC, you need a bit of CBD balance, maybe, or not smoke it at all. And again, let me remind you, these people who are qualified to be talking about this, as said, completely normal people, people who are considered normal or otherwise normal, have done some horrendous things because they've become so paranoid because they've had too much THC in their system. Thank you for watching. Take care. And I'll link the video below. Whoever you are out there outside of the bubble of the internet, out there in the person-to-person world, I hope that you can find a way to make that 3.5 weeks a month and do it 12 times. If you do it 12 times, that's a whole year. If you can do it a whole year, you can do it for decades and for the rest of your life. Regular cigarettes smoking, maybe if you're doing that as well, I would recommend you not doing that because we associate via schemas and programs. Years ago, before no smoking ban came into the UK, the majority of people who smoked cigarettes back then never bothered really much until they had some alcoholic beverage at the bar, a local bar somewhere or something or other where they socialized. And then when the ban came in, those who were factory workers smoked more during the dinner hour or break time than they would have otherwise, and they smoke outside. Yeah. They end up smoking at home more. It's like trying to put your finger on a bit of mercury and a bit squirts out the side. You can't control people like that because, if you get people addicted to something, then you remove it and there's nothing in its place for them to do. They're going to seek it out even more. And again, as an individual yourself, if you're trying to stop doing something, you need it. You can't just think, oh, I need to stop doing this. because you're going to do it more if you're doing that. And you might have found that within yourself. You're focusing on the very thing you're trying to stop because you're reminding yourself of what it is you're trying to stop. The brain does not understand stop or go. It just is. What it understands is do. So give it something else to do and let some healthier habit take the place of the void that might be there. You know, you want to do something with your hands, maybe. I always like seem to. I'm not writing anything down. A lot of videos I talk about something. It helps for some reason. It just helps me concentrate. Hold a pen. Yeah, sometimes I am writing notes down, but you see me do a video. I'm holding a pen. I do it at work as well, as I come and go with customer service and breaking down boxes with delivery and all that, and I'm carrying a pen with me sometimes, and maybe sometimes it get a bit stressful. I just get rid of the stress doing that a little bit, so it looks more socially acceptable, I guess, rather than frowning or whatever stress twitch I might have here and there, or tapping my fingers. It's like, come on, are you coming to the till buying that or not? People are faffing about coming. You think they're ready, then they're not, and you think they're ready again, and they're not 3 or 4 times. Yeah, I've had customers like that, and it's just frustrating because people think, oh, you know, people who've never done retail before, they swear they think that, oh, you stand behind the till and sell stuff. So I wish, I really wish it was that easy, but then it wouldn't be. It would be so boring. It's a double-edged sword. Sometimes, some days are boring. Some days are too frustrating. Other days are nice. Yeah, one person can totally make your day, and another person can totally annihilate your day. So it's an emotional roller coaster, really. Because sometimes you're an emotional punch bag for customer service, especially these days, and people are so damn privileged. It's like the world was not created by people for you and only you. You know, you'd swear that they think that sometimes. Anyway, thanks for watching. I'll link you the video. I'll reply to that. I'll upload this and I'll reply with a link and see what you think on that. Good luck. And, you know, if you're somebody who wants to improve yourself and not causing detriment with smoking weed, I generally think good luck, because it's, you know, it's what it's about, self improvement, right? Anything in the world, if you're improving yourself for yourself, great, and if it does make you a better person, then it makes you beneficial for other people, so that they can progress as well, which they can in turn help you be a better person, which then you reciprocate and give it back. Everybody is a product of their environment to a point, but they can intervene and change how much of a product they are, how much a slave they are to the detriments of the environment a little bit. And that's how we can progress against past the chains that hold us in place, right? Those imaginary sort of chains, or the social constructs, the peer pressure, the expectations of other people. If people expect you to go pally pally with them and share some weed, and they expect you to, they're not really a friend. They're just looking for the comfort of your company for their addiction. Really, there's a lot of cognizance that will interject on that to deny that. But really, that's what I think it is. Cheers, take care, and I'll look forward to doing another video. Bye.